Tonight we are starting with chapter 7. The reason for this is because I need to just bring you guys up to speed with a few things on best practices within commercial management for your projects. This will help you through the next 2 weeks when there's a week holiday, that you guys can get stuck in to some of the things relevant and needed for your project to go off well. So we'll go through the slides. This lecture content was meant to be over 2 weeks, and it is still going to be over 2 weeks. So we'll cover half of it tonight on the 5th tonight, and then the next available lecture slot will be on the 26th. Now, on that day, we will speak about it, but there's something planned. So I may just have to do like a screen record and you guys watch it or on the Thursday night. Yeah, I don't want to pick it up on the 2nd of March because that'll be too late. I want to close it off by in a timely way that you can get pretty much rolling on your projects. So that's just something to note. So it'll be split in two tonight, and then another night, which will be maybe not in person, but we call it asynchronous. So like only one way, it'll be a little video of me going through the stuff. Okay, and then I have a few announcements to make. So there is just a few 4 or 5 things. The project rubric has now been updated, and also a clearer explanation about how the individual contribution factor will play a role in your individual mark. So there'll be a group mark, which the rubric is the same, but I just kind of more clearly spelled out or showed you how I would be calculating that. So please go look at that on Blackboard. I have updated it to show that it's the final rubric and not the draft. Yes, is there a question? Would you like me to show you that now? I didn't plan on doing it, but if you guys feel strongly, I will have to oblige you. Okay, no one's feeling fairly strong about that, so you can go and look that up. The teams have been updated, but I must still insert the new members. I tried to download it from Blackboard and then update it, but it didn't want to go so lacquer. So I'll just add those. It's about 5 or 6 people, I think. So you're on the correct teams on Blackboard. That's all good. I just need to bring it over to because that's my marking sheet essentially. So I'll have that updated and placed again. It's more just for the people who deregistered, so that the teams know, okay, this person is deregistered. It's official. Like we can continue without them. Okay, the next announcement I will make with the test preparation, which we'll do. Little call it a revision class if you want. In preparation for next week's midterm, I'll go through all the details there of that, like how many marks, etc. All of that detail there. So, are there any questions before I get started? I would like to get into the slides so that we can, call it a good night tonight. Okay, I'm going to start with, I've uploaded 2 sets of slides like always. However, yes, is there a question? Please feel free to chat or leave a chat, guys. I should be able to see that if you can't speak. Otherwise, you can just interrupt me. I don't mind. Okay, so the silence is going, for me, I just assume It's all good. Mr. Ngupe. Yes. Sorry, I'm just... speaking to these people on the other group. I'm going to have to... Okay, I see a couple of... Yes, so I will be confirming the scope at the end of today's lecture slides. I want to leave you in suspense. Also, that way we can focus on what we're focusing on now. So the project, this chapter 7, which we will cover actually right now. You should be able to see my screen now. Yeah. Okay, I'm over here. I'm just starting the slideshow. Okay, you can still see my screen. Yes, it looks like it. Okay, this chapter 7, I've brought forward from the syllabus or the subject guide, because this is an important one for your projects, and so I didn't want to get to it too late, so as to not, or to set you guys up in the best way possible for your project analysis. So the learning objectives for this chapter is all around common causes of project failure or successes. So we'll describe some components of things that are inside our control, within internal control, that's what it means there. And then we will talk about how to evaluate or identify best practice management processes and procedures and techniques relevant to the commercial practice. Continuing from that, we're going to get into the introduction. So when we speak about best practice in managing projects or programs, or in commercial management, we speak of managing projects and programs. A commercial entity is a day-to-day, or an organization, there's best practices within there to run an effective company. But a commercial project, a commercial management practice or governance issues here, or it speaks to governance issues. So there's Turnbull, which is one of the methods, kind of like a project management best practice. So there's some recommendations in there. Then there's some process protocols, and you may have heard of some of these, the PRINCE2, managing of portfolios, MSP, P3, M3, management of risk, and then management of value. So these are process protocols. So these are best practice for process. And then there's some things we will talk about as it relates to contract management and procurement management guidance. And then OGC Gateway process is just a UK-based best practice, which this book goes into much detail into. I will not go into so much detail. I will more focus on the process protocols, and then we'll sort of I'll leave it open to you guys to choose your best, and as it relates to comparing the few systems that I do recommend or we do go through here. Okay, so let's go into it. So there are some basic causes or common causes of project failure. And, these 5 things and more you can speak about. So lack of clear links between the project and the organization's key strategic priorities, which includes measures of success, lack of clear senior management and ministerial ownership or leadership, in other words, lack of effective engagement with stakeholders. So there was little to no or very poor engagement with the stakeholders, and that's why the project fails. Lack of skills, and even a proven approach in terms of you've not done such a big project or something of this scope or size before, and so that's something that could set you up for failure, the skill to manage it. It speaks also there about lack of risk management, and then too little attention into breaking development or implementation into manageable steps. So you ignore the fact that this thing has to be broken down into it would be a big project that needs to be broken down into much detail. Here's 6, 7, and 8. And this is from Gateway, OGC 2005, which is the Gateway process. Evaluation of proposals driven by initial price rather than long-term value of money. So if you think about that, when the contract gets or tender gets awarded, they're thinking about the initial price. They don't really understand that, okay, in 5 years, this project won't be done and the value of the money will still be the same, whereas costs of things have gone up by possibly even 25%. So that's just evaluation oversight. Lack of understanding of or contact with the supply industry at senior levels in organizations. So suppliers might stop or just cut you off. And then lack of effective project team integration. That's like the whole team here. So integration between clients, suppliers, supply chain, workers, contractors, subcontractors, all of that. Okay, so when we talk about project cost overrun, these are famous UK projects, but I will share with you on the second slideshow some South African, very local, relevant to our stories here in South Africa. These figures and these names don't really mean anything to me, and so I went to go get some local homegrown ones, which may speak to you better. But maybe the Sydney Opera House, that's a big one, where the project cost had overrun by 85 million. So, this is Aussie dollars, but it's like this project cost them way more. So actually they paid so much more. And if you think about the Thames Barrier, which is the river in flowing through London, 23 million was the estimate, and they ended up spending 400 million pounds. Now, you just take 400 million pounds, and you a quick multiplier is 20, right? So 400 million times 20, you're looking at 8,000 million, which is, I think, 8 billion. My math is not so good, but I think that's 8 billion rand. That's mega bucks. So yeah. Anyway, some major cost implications there. And why did these projects fail? How did they fail? How did people do such a bad job of estimating price, mitigating risks? And it stems back to all of these things here, the common failures. And not one, not two, probably 3 or 4 of them coincide to make a very, very big difference. Okay, so if you think about this bullet number 2, the big bullet, it's not only restricted to construction and infrastructure projects. If you think about IT systems, just think about your own IT system in your workplace, or different engineering projects. So the Concorde, that cost 12 times its predicted figure. Boeing, Airbus, some of these cars that they manufacture, these e-cars, electronic cars, the price of them, R&D, and to get it from concept to actually out in the production into the marketplace, you're looking at probably close to 12 times the predicted figure it would take them. And neither is it, restricted to high profile or complex projects. It could be even just your house. If any of you have done any renovations at all, you would know that, you go in with a certain plan, with some sort of a figure, with some sort of a budget, and you know that it can quickly get out of control. So either in terms of cost, so money, or time, it just takes much longer than you originally predicted. Project success or failure, if you think about it, is a nebulous concept. So you can't really, or people don't really define it well. It's forever moving. It shifts. So that's what nebulous means. It can shift. The goals shift. Perception may vary between stakeholders. So what that means is a success for your board members is not a success for your workers. Not necessarily. Success for your clients, the outward facing people, is not success for the internal. Perception also may vary over time. The Sydney Opera House is now considered a beautiful piece of art and construction marvel, but at the time it was a big failure. But now, with time, it's worn away. People forget how expensive it was, and it's like, oh, it's actually beautiful. What an amazing feat of engineering. And it actually wasn't. So some of the atypical, or I want to call it, Baker states them as success or failure factors. So goal commitment of the project team, accurate initial cost estimates, some adequate project team capabilities, if you do adequate funding to completion, if you have adequate planning and control techniques. So Baker basically puts forth that if you do all of these things well, you will be successful. If you do them poorly, it will cause failure of the project. So on-site project manager, basically some supervision, absence of bureaucracy, all of these things, task versus social orientation, etc., etc. Here's some more critical success factors, project mission, top management support, troubleshooting, and a whole bunch of other things. So this is Pinto and Slevin in 1988. So these are not new concepts to us as managers, as engineers, as technicians in the field, right? This is not new knowledge. However, maybe this concept is project governance. And Winch says here, the issue of project success or failure is primarily one of project management, specifically a problem in how the interactions between the stakeholders in the process are governed. So governance is a word that's maybe being introduced to you now. It's how do we govern things? How do we regulate them? How do we manage these interactions? And this was supported by a KPMG study in 2005, which is a global IT project management survey. And here's where the Turnbull guidance, document comes in. This is kind of a code of practice or guidance for directors on how to perform corporate governance well. You can go look at these different rules or regulations. So the US Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, these guys set the requirements to report on internal controls over financial reporting within the USA. So it's basically their banking auditors. They look at the whole country on securities and exchange. So these very smart people, as well as the in terms of the UK guidance, that's the Turnbull guidance. They are auditors, they are consultants, and they put in place certain frameworks or guidelines to help organizations with these mega projects, if you can call it that, or to ensure governance within big exchanges of money, because we're not talking about small change here, like 2 million, 2 billion, 8, for South Africa, I'll show you some projects where you intersecting the private and the government sectors. You have to have these governance, your governance needs to be in place. Okay, Turnbull guidance. The board should maintain a sound system of internal control to safeguard its shareholders' investments and the company's assets. So this is the reason why your aim is to protect the company's interests, your shareholders' investments, the assets of the company. And they're just saying there that the directors should review the different methods. So I'm going to take you through not all of them, just one or two. Maybe I'll do two, and then I'll go to the next slide and talk about how this relates back home to some projects that that we'll maybe review. Okay, so it talks about best practice approaches and frameworks, methodologies, etc. I'm not going to go through that again. So PRINCE. PRINCE 2 stands for Projects in Controlled Environments. So this one was developed initially in 1989. That was PRINCE 1, essentially. But then it got a update in 2009. So this refreshed PRINCE 2 version. And the UK government made this a mandatory control framework for all government projects. So it's like they said, if you want to do business with us, you will have PRINCE implemented in your business or as a project control mechanism, as a framework. So there's two guides. Within PRINCE, it's a document. It's a massive document. So I'm not going to go everything. It's like an ISO of project management, right? So there's managing successful projects with PRINCE and then directing successful projects. So that you can look at them in two ways. So one lot of guidance is for managers, and then the next is for like directors. Operates as a common language for project participants. So your customers will be on the same page, your users and the suppliers, providing a stable interaction between suppliers. So there's no ambiguity. So if you're on the same page, speaking the same language, or looking at the same measuring stick, there's less fights and less chance of things going wrong. You increase your possibility of success. Okay, so essentially it provides a framework that enables costs, timescales, quality, scope, risk, and benefits to be planned, delegated, and monitored and controlled. It is product-based, with business case driving all project management processes on a project from starting up to the closing of a project. So if you think about, if I bring you back to chapter 1, the commercial management framework, there is the startup. So there's the before the project actually starts. Then there's the bid phase. Then there's you get awarded. Then there's the project operation, and then there's the closing phase. So there's a whole cycle with there's multiple points within that framework, and PRINCE 2 helps you encapsulate everything within it and to control each phase accordingly. Developed to be applicable for a range of customer supplier arrangements. So, they're saying, not necessarily only project or product. It can be for a whole host or a whole range of things. It assumes that the project will be run on behalf of the customer, employing the services of a single supplier from start to completion within the framework of a contract, so that you won't have multiple. So that's the assumption there. It's the key assumption. You don't have multiple suppliers from start. And then these are the main characteristics which you might have to, in terms of, if you talk about PRINCE, you might have to go It's a central business case, a clear defined life cycle. These are the things you're going to have to go through. A process-based approach, emphasis on disaggregating projects into manageable, controllable stages. There's defined resources, etc. How Prince is structured. So it's based on 4 interrelated elements. So there's principles, themes, processes, and the project environments. And these, of course, may be customized depending on the type and size of specific project. And another assumption here is that they're assuming that you have an experienced project manager who is experienced within the Prince cycle or the Prince framework. So it is, if you look here, this would be like assumption number 2, right? Because this would be assumption number 1. This assumes the project will be run on behalf of the customer with a single supplier. So there's the second assumption. Here's and we can go then further down into the principles. So you can see how the structure goes ever deeper and deeper into all of these 4 elements. So now we're in the principles element, where you talk about guiding obligations of good practice. That's why also this falls within a best practice model or framework. The principle is you learn from experience, you delegate roles and responsibilities, you manage by stages, you manage by exception. There's a product focus, and it's tailored. Themes, why, who, what in terms of business case, organization, etc. How much, when, what if, all of these things. The 7 processes here, they talk about, it's basically linked to project lifecycle, which is starting up a project, directing a project, initiating a project, controlling a stage, managing product delivery, managing stage boundaries, and then closing the project. So this will run through a typical project lifecycle. Techniques, as you can see here, they go through some management techniques. And then these 26 management products are subdivided into baseline management products, records, and reports. So as I said, it's a massive document or framework or method that requires a lot from the person managing or even the company managing the project. Here are some of the benefits. It is a familiar and consistent methodology. So once you do it for one project, it's the same across projects. It has similar, or it's like there is a familiar and similar theme to project management that comes in here. It's controlled and structured with a start, a middle, and an end. There's well-established terms and references, so terms of references prior to starting the project. So that's a good thing to have. And then there's frequent evaluation stages or quality gates, if you want to call them, if you speak quality. There's an assurance that the project continues to meet the business case at those checkpoints, for example. And management commitment to provide appropriate resources as part of any approval to proceed. Okay, and then they continue there with the benefits. And then, of course, nothing is perfect, so you have your limitations. And one of the key ones here, contract management is not dealt with in detail. So this is quite a big gap or hole for Prince. It just provides you with like an essential controls and limitations. It thinks that you would have that done outside of the framework. So, it says there, all the project participants to function within the constraints of whichever appropriate contract is adopted. So it almost assumes, another assumption is that you would have done the contract management part or piece, signed the contract beforehand, and you're all agreed that this is the framework. And then they jump into the the managing thereof. So that's quite a big limitation. If something goes wrong, now you fall back on the contract of like, okay, who's liable? What are the repercussions? Who pays for this? Who doesn't pay for this? Who's, what does this mean for the project, etc. So that contract management piece is quite vital, and it's quite a big hole in terms of making Prince a very, very, very good project management tool or commercial project management tool. This is the second of multiple managing successful programs, or MSP, if you want to use the acronym that they use. The current guide to MSP is the 4th edition, and you can get this at Soden and the Cabinet Office 2011. I'm going to browse past this one into this one over here. It says the MSP comprises of 6 principles, 9 governance themes, and 6 processes linked to the program lifecycle. The transformational flow, in other words. Benefits of MSP, there's continued. Now we look at portfolio management. So I'm going to stop here, and I just want to pause. So that is basically the theme of the next, I think, 30 or 40 pages of the slides. There's multiple methods or frameworks, and the slides just go through it. So I'm not going to be going into too much detail. So you can see there's management of risk. I'd like to show you now. I will go through it, just not tonight. As I said, this is broken up into 2 parts. This lecture, this chapter is broken into 2 parts. And I want to bring us to, we'll talk about contract management next time. I want to bring us to, so let me stop sharing, to the projects. No, that's a good question. I only see it now, Nikanye. Chapter 7 is not a part of the test. It's more for your knowledge on the project. So I'd like to get you guys started on that part of things as well. So after the test, there's a week break for the institution. I will be marking. I will not be on a break, but you guys can get stuck into your project so long. You don't have to wait for me to cover things. So this is now taking me to the second slideshow that I have, which is lessons from Southern African infrastructure projects. And we'll compare some project failures and successes, getting really practical and showing you kind of what you guys need to look at, or what types of cases you can choose from within our context here in South Africa. So these are some projects from the last 15 years, and we will all probably know them. Medupi Power Station, in the energy sector, its outcome was failure, considered a failure because of severe overruns. And if you look at the key commercial management lesson here, is like poor contractor coordination, my apologies, design defects, labor disruptions, and procurement issues cause massive delays and cost escalation. So that in brackets is just my reference where I got the link to the articles or the information. Kusile Power Station, another failure, more cost overruns. So budget escalated to about 233 billion, which is crazy, with significant delays due to corruption, poor planning, and management failures. PRASA Passenger Rail Modernization Program. That one is also considered a failure, with governance crisis. Procurement scandals and rolling stock contract issues created operational collapse of commercial rail services. So I'm sorry if you work for PRASA or any of these institutions. It is what it is. There's no arguing against the fact that it is a failure. Ingula Pump Storage, that's also in the energy sector. Some overruns is kind of like the outcome or the reason why it's a failure. Labor unrest, technical complexity, and contract disputes delayed the project and increased costs. So the last one is also in logistics. It's the Transnet Locomotive Procurement Program. Failure or / corruption. If you think about state capture procurement, irregularities led to billions in losses and investigations into supplier contracts. So with every bad or failed thing, there is a positive. So here are some of the successful projects considered successful by many. Of course, you can name the negatives all day long. We can talk about the if you think of also in Gauteng, the e-tolls, that was a complete failure. But anyways, let's go to the positive. Gautrain, the rapid rail link. In the transport sector, very successful. One of the most successful public-private partnerships, so PPP. This links to your project, infrastructure projects in Africa, generating billions in economic impact. So quite a successful project there. Garop wind power station in South Africa, renewable energy. That's 145 megawatt wind farm delivered under a 20-year power purchase agreement with Eskom, demonstrating strong contract structuring. So not all doom and gloom for Eskom. Sirius 1 solar power station, also in renewable energy. We're talking about 86 megawatt solar plant commissioned in 2020 under the REIPPP program, showing successful private sector participation. We'll talk about this REIPPP a little bit later as well. So Boikanya Solar Power Station, 50 megawatt solar facility completed quickly with private financing and grid integration. Very cool. And then Greefspan, which is a solar power station, also here in SA, a large solar project developed through consortium investment and government procurement programs. So if we think about like what are the key issues, right? And you want to do a quick analysis. So the key issues here, as I said, I think a little bit in the top, massive cost escalation, design defects, contractor disputes. And if you link it to the commercial management sector, it's or side of things, it's weak contractor interaction and poor risk allocation. So those are those key success or failure factors. Corruption and governance failure. So that's kind of where you see corruption, it's usually a governance issue, weak procurement oversight. PRASA, irregular rolling stock procurement, governance collapse, and then contract management failure and political interference. Let's move to, so Ingula had some labor unrest issues, right? So poor risk forecasting and stakeholder management. This is how your project can fail as it relates to stakeholder engagement, not involving a certain percentage of the local contractors into your projects. That's oftentimes why you'll hear mega projects or big projects. They do that for a reason. They're not just doing that they want to, or they want to be, seen as really good. The local community, the local stakeholders are going to cause a risk to your project if you don't include them in what they view as, lots of money coming into their town or region. Okay, so if we look at the successes or the best practice, there was a structured risk allocation for the Gautrain rapid rail link. The private sector accountability was strong. So that PPP financing model was really strong. And the REIPPP, renewable energy program, this had a competitive bidding process. So also it was a transparent procurement and long-term contract. That's one of the major success factors. There was transparent procurement processes, which enabled them to have no issues as it comes to like shady deals. Garoop Wind Farm, strong developer consortium, clear power purchase agreement, and investor confidence. So some of the other things are like strong product lifecycle management, private sector risk sharing, efficient engineering and financial models. So yeah, if you just look at it in terms of a comparison and why I say the one is a failure versus not, this is Medupi, and this is the cost. Cost overruns, I should say. The original versus the final project cost for selected infrastructure projects. So 400 plus million for Medupi. Kusile was sitting at like 230, I think. Gautrain, it's high, but not as high as something like that. So that looks like to be about 30 million. And then this REIPPP, this is the average. So look how small that is. So something really was good on this whole program. So that's something you can go into. And this is the PPP structure from that REIPP's, I guess we want to call it this group of projects in the Gautrain. So they had government financing, yes, of course, with a public-private sector agreement, and then they had financiers and public users as well. So in terms of that structure, that's kind of how you look at it. And then here are some of the key commercial best practices. So you need to have strong governance, so clear accountability and oversight. Effective risk allocation, assign risk to the party best able to manage them. A transparent procurement, so competitive bidding reduces corruption. We talk about lifecycle contract management, which is in chapter 8 of the textbook. Oversight from planning to operations. Public-private partnerships, that's PPP. So you get access to capital and expertise, and then bankable contracts. And then, yeah, I just talk about common reasons project fail, which is a repetition of the other things, of course. So poor contract management, corruption, weak project governance, contract coordination, inadequate risk allocation, which is a lot of the things you can just flip. If you know the best practice, you can just flip it and say, okay, if you don't do this, or if you say, okay, poor, like weak governance, good project governance, strong governance. So that's if you not, it's not for this test today. It's more for your final, but also for your analysis of different projects. You can look at these factors and go, okay, is this good or bad, strong or weak? And yeah, so again here, some why do some succeed? Strong PPP frameworks, clear power purchase agreement, and that comes with contract management, which is one of our chapters, competitive procurement programs, clear life cycles, etc. Okay, so there is a class discussion question, which I think I'm going to not go through tonight, because I think we're all kind of focused on not the project, but the test upcoming. So yeah, I think I've been speaking for a little over 45 minutes, which is kind of concentration span, which is a good amount of time. I'd like to take 5 minutes as a break for myself, just to get some water and wet my throat and take a bit of a breather. And then, so I'll come back at 5 to 7. We'll continue this, and then we'll talk about what do you call it? The scope for the midterm, or I like to call it a revision section within the class, revising the important notes. Okay, does that sound good? Can I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down? I must just, yes, Pusisiwe, I must just, oh, she's giving a thumbs up. Great, thank you so much. Okay, 5 minutes. Thanks, guys. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I see that there's a question about postponing the midterm test. Is it possible if the department postpones the midterm test? Well, I'm not quite sure what that means. Mr. Ngupe, can you elaborate? Um, I'm not, Mr. Ngupe, are you back? Okay, so far as I know, we are not postponing any midterm tests, especially not for my subject in any case. Or one module at least, write it after the recess. No, I don't think that that would happen. We've notified everyone. We've notified everyone via email that these are the dates that you're going to write. It would be under great duress that we shift that, because now we've told 100 people that you're going to write on this day, that day, and the next day. So anyways, that's fine. I look forward to your email. The first announcement about the test is that you will write, if you are sick, you need to notify me with a doctor's note within 7 days of you being sick. So let's say, for example, you're sick on the 12th of March. By the next week, you would have had to send me a notification to say, I am sick, here's my doctor's note. May I please be eligible for the sick test? And yes, you will be. The sick test date, I can give it to you now, is the 26th of March. So that's why I would have to prepare something asynchronous for the 26th of March. So I won't be available because I would need to invigilate that sick test. I'll tell you why I have chosen to do it this way. Last year, there were quite a few of the students who sent sick notes, and the sick note or the sick test was delayed. And so that caused marks delays. And so it just caused me no end of headache, scheduling it, setting it up, organizing with individuals, etc. So this time around, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to employ best practice and say, here is your sick test date notification. So if you are sick, I do understand. I'm not a human being that doesn't realize people get sick. However, the rules of the institution state you must send a doctor's note to be eligible for a reassessment of this midterm test. So it doesn't impact your reassessment later on. This is your chance to do it. Okay, that's the first announcement. The second announcement is that I have put onto Blackboard, and I'll show you where. Share the right screen. Yes, this one. So if you look on the screen, under, sorry, I just need to get to the correct place. Under tests, so not projects, but tests, you will see that I have placed for you question types definitions. So it's just a little guide for you as a student to understand what I'm explicitly asking for. So if I say in the test, define, you know, or you should know, it's a verb. You are to state precisely the meaning of words or terms to describe the nature, properties, or essential qualities of a statement, of the exact meaning of the word, especially in a dictionary. Describe has something, evaluate. Now I'm going to focus on these two here, critical and analyze. Sometimes we go critically analyze, right? So you are on a postgraduate diploma, meaning you are in NQF level 8. There will be very few define and describe, or it would only be to give evidence to your case. So you would have to say it, but only as it relates to critically analyzing or being critical about it. So you need to express adverse or disapproving comments or judgments. So you make a judgment of it, or you express or involve an analysis of the merits and faults of a work, literature or music or art or whatever it is you were studying, right? So to analyze is to examine something methodically and in detail. So when I say in the test, analyze this case, you need to methodically and in detail, typically in order, explain and interpret it, and then give some kind of critique or judgment, right? So these are good these are good words to take note of when I ask the questions. You kind of know what is expected of you. So this is a good thing to just go through. This question types definition before the test and before the FISA, which is coming later. That's the first piece which I need you to, or needed to prepare you for there. I did, according to the one student, she asked for some preparation questions. They are there. You can take this quiz at any stage. I see no one has done it. So oh wait, never mind. One person has done it. So my work is only for one person. I suggest as a revision, you can maybe go through these things if you'd like. If you don't want to, that's also fine. Okay, then what was the other? Yes, the other thing that I've made available to you as a study tool or a summary. It's the summaries. So if you scroll down all the way to the last one, I've left open for you the summary slides. So what I did is I captured and I saved all of the summaries after each chapter. So chapter 1 summary, chapter 2 summary, chapter 3 summary, chapter 4, etc. It goes all the way, and I'll make chapter 7 visible to you now. It's nothing more than the following. And this is where your scope starts, guys. So if you want to take notes, you are most welcome. However, there is a spoiler. You are all mature and advanced students who I don't believe needs a scope, but I will enlighten you by saying that here is the scope for chapter 1. You are going to know and understand some commercial practice as it relates to the buyer and the seller interface. You are going to know, wait, you can't see my screen. Let me share this. Share screen. Stop sharing here. Stop sharing there and share. Why doesn't this one share now? Give me a second, guys. Here it is. Okay. So can you now see chapter 1 summary slide in PDF? Okay, looks like you can. As I said, you are going to know and understand the seller-buyer interface. You will go through the commercial management framework. You will understand the principal activities undertaken by the commercial management function. You will identify the skills and abilities that support these activities. and you will consider for yourself, is commercial management a profession? You don't have to go through the TCE if you don't want to. So that's one I can say, okay, you don't have to go through that. So there you are. I've scoped it. I've scoped chapter 1 for you. I'm going to scope chapter 4 for you. All of these things are important that I'm taking every line or bullet and I'm highlighting the thing for you, if you can see here. So you will need to answer the following questions for yourself. This is risk. So we spoke about how risk is an important issue in society today. It's concerned with two things, time and the belief in control. There's consequence and probability. There's risk and uncertainty that we spoke about. Descriptions of risk vary greatly across contexts. You need to talk about responses to risk and uncertainty, individual behavior. We spoke about these cognitive factors, if you can remember. We spoke about organizational factors, situational factors, the 4 perspectives on risk. You need to know these. We reviewed risk identification, analysis, and response and control with the different frameworks. ERM, enterprise risk management, the role of governance in risk, and then application of real options thinking. And then Monte Carlo simulation is a systems dynamics approach to improve our understanding of risk. Interdependencies, my apologies. So that's an example of chapter 1 and chapter 4. So my recommendation is for you to take the other 2 summaries, chapter 2 and chapter 3, and go through them and try to find and answer the questions. Now, how many chapters are we writing on? We're writing on chapter 1 to 4. So I'll write that in the chat. Chapters 1 to 4. Chapters 1 to 4. Okay, there we go. Answer that question. Are there any more questions? It's going to be 50 marks. You will have an hour and a half. The questions will be pitched at NQF level 8, so it will not be what is the mark allocation going to be per question? I have spread it evenly across the 4 chapters, if that's what you mean by like mark allocation. So if I have 50 marks and I have 4 chapters, what's the math on that? 12? Roughly about 12 per chapter. How will I be marking? If you define something and you describe something, you'll get 1 or 2 marks. The major mark here is to evaluate, analyze, and create new, or not create new, to take the theoretical concepts and bridge them to a real world concept. That is where that is where the magic will happen on NQF level 8 and going forward. So 8, 9, and 10 is all about create, like in terms of levels, like you're bringing theory into practice. Kelly Lee's asking, will we need to remember all of the references when providing an answer? No, I don't expect you to state a reference. For example, in the slides, one of them had, like, I don't know. Let's just use this example. Ngupi 2026. Like you don't have to reference. You don't have to reference the exact place. If you just say, Prince 2 speaks about these advantages, or okay, we're not going to test on Prince. That's just what came to mind. Okay, risk identification analysis. These are the different steps in ERM. Perfect. I'm happy with that. You're bringing the theory into your answer. Happy with that. The time and the venue are on the timetable. That has been posted on Blackboard. So I'm not going to repeat it here. You should have that information. If not, you should know where to go look for that information. It is on Blackboard. Okay, now's the time for all the questions. So I'm happy to answer them. I will answer them, even though if I say go look on Blackboard. I saw there was something pinged. I'm not sure if someone sent me something, but okay. Right, is there any other questions as it relates to the test? Okay, you've got me now. It's going to be, let's go through summary chapters number 2. Chapter 2 summary and chapter 3. Share. Okay, can you see my screen? I think so. Chapter 2. Okay, chapter 2, we spoke about leadership. So commercial leadership. And, principally concerned with influencing both internal and external stakeholders, multiple interfaces. So how you manage these relationships pre and post award stages of the project's life cycle. So this is linking to chapter 1 of the commercial management framework. Educating the multiple stakeholders engaged in exchange, for example, coaching project managers, specific contract or agreements generally. We spoke about the overall aim of the process is delivery of organizational objectives via projects and programs within your contractual commitments. It has, so we explored the key themes and concepts from leadership literature. We spoke about approaches to the study of leadership and these examples, so the trait, style, and contingency theories. We examined contemporary theories of leadership, such as transformational leader. Then we explored leadership in relation to learning, presented a conceptual framework that views leadership as a process. We provided some introductions of Senge, I think, is one of these, and his, and then there's also Porter, enabling commercial practitioners to appreciate the importance of process for execution in day-to-day activities. Provide evidence to support the need for commercial to further develop leadership capabilities. Accepted as a key participant in senior management. Okay, so leadership, different leadership styles. Why is it important? What's a transformational leadership? How can leadership impact the bottom line, etc.? Chapter 3 we spoke about here is strategy. I think Porter's 5 models were here. Here we go. Strategy. Then strategizing is ongoing dynamic process. Process of exploring and analysis seeks to identify the strategic agenda. That's important there. Define a clear sense of purpose. Creating value. We talk about market differentiation. Core value proposition. Yeah. And then within chapter 3, you can look at the different styles. So Porter's 5 S's or SWOT analysis. We spoke about SWOT analysis and the different tools, but there's others that you can go through there. Okay. As the old Rian Kruiwagen said from the news, dit is dit, my story is uit. So my story is done. I don't have much more to share for you guys. The only thing I can say is good luck for studying. I believe you have a pretty big weekend of studying ahead. And I'm going to end it here because, I think the time will be better spent studying and going through what you need to go through. Yes. Is it Kaiser or Caesar?
Evening, it's Caesar.
Ah, okay.
Yes, I just wanted to find out the recordings for the last week class.
It is available. Yeah, it's on YouTube. I think I did drop the link. But if not, I think someone else in the chat in that I'll drop tonight's recording there as well. And then you will see on the YouTube channel it is public, so you can share it. You don't have to go through the link. Okay, it's just the simplest way. I'll drop it again. I'll find that it's fairly easy to get to. Pleasure. Okay, anything else, guys? Doesn't look like it. So let me stop the recording and I can download it and send it. Okay, yeah, good.